Ćao, me čuješ?
Čujemo se.
Evo ćeš brzinski da probaš svoju prezentaciju sada.
Ja,
Da.
daj mi sekund sam. Da popalim svoju aparaturu. Spor mi je komp za medalje. Pozdrav svim.
Odlično.
Se vidi? Mogu da izađem?
Da.
Samo da vidim gde se gasi, čekaj se. Aha, okej.
Ništa, to je to, ljudi ulaze i svi. Start. So, hi and welcome to the Academic Policy Lab launch event. We, as a RECAS Network, are delighted to have you to join us today to introduce you Academic Policy Lab, our initiative designed to foster collaboration between different stakeholders, researchers, industry professionals, and policymakers. This platform aims to bridge the gap between academic research and policy development, ensuring that evidence-based insights contribute to addressing the pressing challenges in our region. At this event, as you saw the agenda, we will present key objectives of this initiative, highlight upcoming events, and unveil the beta version of the research repository. This carefully curated collection of academic work will serve as valuable resource for informing public policies and strengthening decision-making processes. We would like to take this opportunity to also express our gratitude to our donors, Open Society Foundation's Western Balkans, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, and Institute, for support that has been instrumental in making this initiative a reality. I will give the floor now to Gazela Kudardrashko, Institute of Philosophy and Social Theory Director, to introduce you to the RECAS Network.
Thank you very much, Irena. I'm very pleased to be here with you today and to say a few words about the Regional Network of Center for Advanced Studies, which is a flagship initiative of Rectors Forum for Southeast Europe and Western Balkans, created actually in full capacity last year in Sarajevo Rectors Forum, with the aim to connect better academic institutions within our region, especially the biggest universities that have, let's say, enough capacity to attract researchers who could come from abroad. So one of our aims is actually to work with our diaspora and try to, I wouldn't say reverse brain gain, but try to induce brain circulation, as they like to call it nowadays, and use the capacities that we actually have among a large academic community of the people from the Western Balkans particularly. Network of the centers actually is composed of the members from several countries. It's managed by your host for the moment, Center for Advanced Studies Southeast Europe at University of Rijeka, which is the first regional center founded almost 12 years ago. Then it's Institute, which I'm representing currently, Institute for Philosophy and Social Theory at University of Belgrade, which is the largest institution within this network. And there are also Institute for Advanced Studies at University of Montenegro, the Center of Advanced and Postdoctoral Research, St. Cyril and Methodius at University in Skopje, Center for Interdisciplinary Studies, Professor Zdravko Grebo from University of Sarajevo, Center for Advanced Studies at University of Pristina, and Center for Advanced Studies, Advanced and Postdoctoral Studies at University of Tirana. And the last one which joined this network is actually the Center for Advanced Studies at University of Ljubljana. So basically, we managed to build a network that is covering all former Yugoslavia and also Albania included, which is let's say, which was the aim. And the next aim of this network is actually to expand a bit broader to Southeast Europe and to include University of Thessaloniki and University of Trieste or some other university in Northern Italy, which could cooperate within the network. The whole network has actually the aim to stimulate postdoctoral research in primary postdoctoral research. And the fellows which are actually following these presentations are postdoctoral fellows, which are for the moment the second generation there. So we are very proud to cooperate with very different donors. You already mentioned them, and be able to give a scholarship to postdoctoral researchers that could work in the topics which are of importance for the whole region. And this academic policy lab is actually one of the tools that we envisage within this wider program that could help us in using the expertise which our postdoctoral fellows and other partners have, and I guess that Tara and Srđan will speak more about that, so I will stop here and just greet you once more on behalf of this network.
Thank you, Kasela. I will now introduce my colleague, Jurovic, and ask him to introduce us to the Academic Policy Lab.
Thank you, Elena. My name is Srđan Jurovic. I work for the Institute of Philosophy and Social Theory in Belgrade. Here in the room, for people online, are actually this year's 15 fellows, postdoctoral fellows who are doing their research this year alongside 3 topics, which are the digital transformation, the green transformation, and what is the third one? I just lost it. And economic development. Thank you. Alongside this fellowship scheme, what we are launching this year is the Academic Policy Lab, which Gazela mentioned, and it's basically a regional platform at the moment consisting of these 7 research centers, advanced research centers, and the networks of the fellows which they've supported so far, but also their close collaborators and this pool of experts which have expertise, which should be very beneficial for the regional development, but it's not always so. One of the issue areas or the problem areas we identified together in Belgrade, we had a meeting in December, is that the link between the academic research and the policy processes is actually very weak. And even though a lot of academic research is produced, very little is uptaken by the policymakers, and very little of that research is actually finding its place in the policy process, design, implementation, and evaluation. So our ambition is basically to strengthen this research and policy link. We aim to increase the relevance and impact of scientific research in the regional public policies and development processes, and reinforce the connection between this research and democratic reform. We are all oriented towards democracy and development of democracy in the region, and we find this a good way to embed our common practices in a sense that participation of the academic community is beneficial for everyone. The second ambition is to bridge academia and policymakers, but in terms of community. It's not enough to basically explore and do research, but create these strong links and make easy access for both the government agencies and policymakers to the research which is available, and try to build these links between these 2 communities. Our third ambition is to foster policy innovation, and that is with these global trends which we've already discussed, which I've mentioned, is that this region has some capacities to engage with the policy innovation, but it has to pull its capacities and to work with kind of a lot more synergies and interconnections between individual researchers, but also institutions. That is one of the goals of the overall RECAS framework, and this is a very specific and kind of more targeted approach in this aspect. And fourth ambition is not only to keep, in this sign of policymakers and researchers, but actually go into a societal way. Try to communicate the research of our fellows to wider society and wider ecosystem of not only those who are making decisions, but also those in whose name the decisions are being made. And in that sense, also reinforcing this idea of democracy. One of the first activities which we launched this year is exploring the interconnection of academic research and policy processes in terms of better understanding what are the obstacles in that. And also one of the important elements of that is also the position of academia as a sector in our countries. And that is one of the research which is going to be developed within the Academic Policy Lab this year. The second one, which my colleague is going to present just after me, is a policy relevant research repository, which is basically an online platform which we designed, which contains the relevant research which is curated, which is tagged to the very specific areas to which policy process it's relevant. I will explain further, and it's supposed to make the ease of access for policymakers and those who are interested in academic research. This to be sort of a gateway to that research, and then from there you go further and explore who is doing what in the region, and also what kind of research is available from very different sources. Because obviously we have these national financing schemes, which often are under the title of, making development better and making policies better, evidence-based policies. But we feel very often that these two silos are still very separated, and this platform would at least help in establishing this first gateway for the decision makers and policymakers toward the research. Also, what we want to do is actually address our primary group, which are the academics, and we are designing. We will be designing and offering trainings for understanding policy cycles, effective communication of research, how to engage stakeholders, but also how to kind of unlock peer learning and best practices among the academics in the region. This again is basically the capacity building program for the academics, targeting specifically academics policy cycles, so that on our part as academics we could do also more in pushing our research into the policy processes and making more with the impact. And finally, let's say the third component, which we feel important in reaching our ambition, is outreach activities and informing public debates. And in that sense, Academic Policy Lab, in terms of these 7 representatives so far, are going to try to engage or to have kind of campaigns and information, social media, engaging specific journals, journalists, organizing public events and webinars, which are supposed to kind of get us out of the air and be of more service to the policy making community in the region. Of these activities, we've already developed one in full, or actually a pilot version so far, which we want to present. So I'll take Irena's role as well and announce Jan Tekovac, who is going to present our pilot version of the research repository, or policy relevant research repository, which we designed and show you some of the basic functionalities of that platform. Thank you.
Thank you. Tara, can you share the screen?
Hi, everyone. From my side as well, it's a pleasure to be with you and to meet you. I'm sorry that I couldn't be with you in person this time, but I hope that next time we will have a chance to see each other in the same physical space as well. So I have this lovely task today to show you the research repository that my colleagues have been mentioning, and we have been working for it for some time now. This is the pilot version, a beta version of the repository. So we wanted to share with you a first short glance of how it's actually conceived so far. As Irena already said in the beginning, the whole background and idea of the whole research repository is to make a curated, easy gateway to connect and to bridge between policymaking and academia, and enable policymakers an easy access to academic knowledge for the purposes of their own work. So the idea behind it is actually, our idea behind it was to create a digital platform that collects, organizes, and disseminates academic research with some direct relevance to public policies and to key reform processes. And the way we actually envisaged it was to try to connect it, as Srđan was mentioning, to some of the topics that we find important in the work of the fellows and of the RECAS itself. So our idea behind it was to enable a database that would make user-friendly and easy access to different kinds of thematic areas of knowledge, and to also to connect it to EU integration process and the sustainable development goals as well. Another part behind the idea of bridging the gap that exists between researchers and policymakers was also to enable academics and researchers to have easier visibility of their work in the region, but also beyond, because we are aware that too often, unfortunately, the research is stuck in silos among the academics. So we wanted to make it a bit more visible outside of the academic circles as well, but also on the other hand, to facilitate the practical application of the knowledge that is being developed in academia into shaping effective policies, as we are aware that a lot of policymakers are having trouble finding in this very busy schedules that they are having. They're finding time. It's very hard to find times to seek for evidence-based insights that is necessary for their work if they're working on developing legislation or some kind of reform processes. So we thought that this could be one of the easy ways to make it beneficial for different actors. So this is the other slide I wanted to show you. So the RECAS repositorium is actually it's made not only for the policymakers, as is stated here, and government officials, also for academic institutions and researchers who are seeking to contribute to policy debates, so to see how their colleagues are actually working, in which kind of formats, topics. We have some academic knowledge which is already transferred to policy debates, but also to think tanks and civil society organizations which are working on different kind of policy advocacy initiatives on different kind of reforms, etc., and to media professionals who are also trying to seek for reliable sources and data, and often find it very difficult to search from through the papers of academics and seek for some more easy and user-friendly formats. Also, of course, this is an open, openly available digital platform, which is open to anybody, including the citizens or anybody else who is interested in public knowledge and in learning from what we have already collected on the database. This is the reasoning behind it. We thought that one more database is actually important. We are aware that there is a lot of different kind of databases and collections and repositories around. But from our side, the motivation to make yet another one was actually to try to enhance this kind of access and connection between the academic knowledge, civil society, and policymaking communities, and also to encourage interdisciplinary exchange, because you will see we curated these kind of collections in the repository, not only by selected disciplines, but also through interdisciplinary areas, trying to show how some topics can actually be very important and influential across different kind of fields. And of course, one of the main goals of this repository, but also on other activities that we're engaged in at RECAS, is to facilitate this kind of development of the evidence-based policy work and to align it, of course, with different kind of European and global frameworks. So now comes the most important and best part of the presentation. We wanted to show you how the repository looks like. I will leave the link, or actually, thanks to Irena, a QR code at the end of the presentation, so you can access it actually by yourselves. But in the beginning, I wanted to show you how we envisaged it. So the idea behind it is to make it searchable, not only by keywords, which is, of course, available through advanced search option on the website through the repository, but also we wanted to enable people who are interested in a topic or a theme, but do not know necessarily what exactly they want to search for. We wanted to make it easy for all of these kind of people to access different kind of titles and documents by topics. So the database itself, as you can see here on this print screen, it has, on the one hand, a lot of documents which are research documents, different kind of policy documents, etc. But it also has videos and different kind of materials, digital materials that you can access. And the idea behind it was to make it also searchable through basic information. So if you have as you can see, the name of the author that you want to see his or her documents within the database, by the year, by the language, and also by the title of the certain document. But also, on the other hand, we envisaged 3 other categories through which you can actually browse by topic. And this is, on the one hand, thematic areas. You can see it on the screen on the left part here. Then through European integrations, so by the chapters actually, which are currently existing in the process of European integration of associations. And through the sustainable development goals sections. So it basically, if you want to try to use it, it would look like this. If you're, for instance, looking for policy briefs on gender and on democratic institutions, which are relevant to the EU Chapter 23, you don't necessarily need to know all of these information that I wrote here. You can just try to search by gender. through advanced search, but also you can try to search through, for instance, if you know that democratic institutions are relevant for the Chapter 23 of the EU negotiations process, then you can just type or choose the Chapter 23 above in the search collections and filter by the Chapter 23, and you will get a collection of the documents and materials which are already listed in the repository. And this is the link where you can access and use it. And I would stop here because if you have any questions, we're more than happy to share it with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Now we have a guest speaker, Sinisha Matic from RCC, who will tell us shortly the own importance about policy and academia link. So, Sinisha.
Good afternoon. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, because sometimes I have these technical issues. Good afternoon once again, and good to see so many of you in this very interesting initiative. I believe very interesting from various perspectives. I'm Sinisha Matic. I'm a senior expert on human capital development. I'm mainly covering innovation and research in the Western Balkans. We're based in Sarajevo. I'm representing Regional Cooperation Council. This is an intergovernmental political organization operating in Southeast Europe, though we mainly, as I said, operate or base our operations in the Western Balkans to assist these economies that haven't joined the EU to do it quicker rather than later. Some of you already understand what we do. I won't go into too many details because of the format of this event here, but I'd like to stress a couple of very important things. First, I believe you are on the right track with this tool that is going to be hopefully a very useful one for policymakers in individual Western Balkan economies and wider in Southeast Europe. But also for various international organizations to ensure that their planning activities are conducted in the right way, and also to ensure that not only that we have policy evidence-based policies in the region, but also that we avoid duplication of efforts, something that we unfortunately see too often, at least in this region. Gazella and some other colleagues have been closely collaborating in a way with the RCC over the last couple of years through the Rectors Forum of Southeast Europe and the Western Balkans. And we tried really to align our efforts into producing some tangible results that will assist various target groups, but in this particular case, mainly research community and innovation community. What you're doing here today, what you're launching today, in a way fits with one of the strategic goals of the Common Regional Market Action Plan, which is the key strategic document in the Western Balkans, backed by the governments, by all 6 governments here, which has to do with, in a way, initiating academia business discussions through a similar policy lab. I understand that the focus here is primarily on research, but I believe that these types of initiatives could nicely also complement some other initiatives that we are seeing in the region. For example, the RIMAP platform of the University of Rijeka. I suppose some of you are familiar with that. That one focuses mainly on innovation, and what you are doing here will probably fit nicely with this initiative that's been going on for 2.5 years already. The idea here is really worthwhile, and I believe that encouraging dialogue between policymakers and researchers, the research community in general, is really essential. Many policymakers do not know how to create or design evidence-based policies that really actually reflect reality rather than some superficial and abstract goals that they want to achieve. Now the challenge is going to be, of course, how to disseminate this and make this useful and widely accepted in policy making, but also in research community. On our end, and some of you already know that, I'm really happy to support the promotional efforts of yours. We have one of the sort of side websites that the RCC manages. It's called balkaninnovation.com, and I'm happy to promote this initiative through this separate website. So Gazela and colleagues, I don't know who to talk to specifically, or Tina, perhaps please email me with some additional information, and I can, of course, introduce this to a wider audience. Another interesting event that's probably going to happen in June, and Gazelle already participated just a week ago in it, is the Western Balkans Innovation and Research Platform. It's an online event that gathers usually between 70, 80 to 150 participants throughout the region who present the interesting initiatives. Gazella presented the URGE project the other day, but this might be also an opportunity to present this platform, which I believe will definitely get some people's attention in the region. So in a nutshell, we as the RCC are happy to collaborate with you as usual, and to promote these efforts, because from my researcher's perspective, from my researcher's hat, I believe this is going to be extremely useful. Just by briefly looking at what Tina showcased now, if you select thematic priorities or certain chapters, this may give you an immediate access to a wealth of information that might be really useful to many of the colleagues in the region, at least those that I collaborate with, and specifically one colleague in the RCC, a colleague from Turkey, our Deputy Secretary General, Umut Ergezer, who is in charge of the Southeast Europe Strategy 2030. I believe that he would be very much interested in this kind of initiative, more so that the other day we discussed about how we actually lack certain tools such as this one in the region. So I'm happy to introduce him with additional details. So Tara, Tina, Gazela, please share the links or additional information that I can use to somehow disseminate and assist your efforts. With that, I would like to close. Of course, if you have any questions, I'm happy to respond. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sinisha. I think it was great. And now, as we are done with the presentations, I'm opening the floor for the questions or any feedback you want to give, or any discussion that you want to take shortly now. So yeah, you also tell us here in the room, and also people who are joining us online. We are happy to take your questions.
Excuse me, did I miss something? Was that something addressed to me or in
No,
general?
I'm opening the floor to questions for the
Okay, okay. Sorry.
panelists who are here in the room, and also for the people online. Maybe some of the questions will be for you, but let's see.
May I enter?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, my name is Ivan Svetlik. I'm here on behalf of Directors Forum of the South, East, West Europe and Western Balkans. And I would like just to extend my congratulations and thanks to all of you who have really made an additional step forward, not just in the development of the Centers of Advanced Studies, but also the Directors Forum activities as well. I'm sure that this new tool presented by Tara today will be a very, very useful one. Also for the working group of Directors Forum on the policy in higher education and research. So all the best in making the next steps, and thank you very much for the efforts you have made.
Thank you so much for the kind words. I have one question here from the room. Maybe you can turn on the camera as well. No, you can turn on. Olympia.
Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Olympia, so I'm a RECAS fellow. So I just really want to actually greet this effort, first of all, to Surgeon and the Policy Lab launch. First of all, I want to say that this is much needed from my experience, because I have been lucky, or if I can say it so, to work both in government, academia, now in private sector, running my own consultancy. So I would say the need is definitely there, and you're feeling very much needed gap. And when I look also at I checked the tool, it actually works. I really find it because there's so many tools often that don't, so this actually works pretty nicely. And I really like that you're actually having the sections both on SDGs and the chapters, because I think these are two, of course, pillars where all of our countries are really either reporting, studying, analyzing, so it will really help. And especially because it brings academic knowledge to in such nice, I would say, sections. I have one question to Sinisha. There is a RCC study, I think 2022, which actually assessed the interlinkages between the countries in the Western Balkans. I found it amazing because it actually quantifies very well the scientific publications in the region, the sectors. So I was wondering if there is any plan by the RCC, or maybe anyone here that is aware that such studies would kind of continue, because I really think we here miss some regular follow-up on the scientific collaboration in the region. I think that report from RCC was very good. It serves me a lot in my work and making my arguments. But I think it would be nice to have some kind of a continuous following of this. So maybe Sinisha should respond. I honestly don't remember the title, but I know that Sinisha is leading this in RCC because I follow this work. So.
Olympia, thank you very much. I suppose you referred to our mapping, regional mapping on research innovation infrastructures that was also coupled with bibliometric analysis of most prolific scientific disciplines in the Western Balkans. I guess that's the one you're talking about.
Yes.
Yes, I believe this is actually the first study of that kind globally. It appears because JRC, or Joint Research Center of the European Commission, in a way emulated it a year later. What we've done, we wanted to understand what kind of research innovation infrastructures we have in the region to be able to operate those and bring it closer to both policymakers, but also to businesses. However, I wanted to go a step further, and I introduced another layer. Namely, we asked our consultants to identify, to go through the Schimago and Web of Science databases and to understand which are the most popular, so to say, scientific disciplines in the region. And we identified several of those that have some overlap, I'd say around 80–85% throughout the region, with some outliers like physics in Serbia. But this is extremely valuable study, and I believe that many people got to use it eventually. We as the RCC would like to, in a way, follow up on what we've done so far, with probably a slightly different slant, so to say, in that we'd like to make it, in a way, more user-friendly to various users, not only to researchers. What we're having in the region, and this is the case throughout Eastern Europe, is that many research outputs tend to sit in isolation. What happens is that a researcher does a fantastic job. He or she produces some very valuable data or recommendations or conclusions. However, these tend to be, lost somewhere in the vastness of the space. What we need is, in a way, and this is what you are doing actually, in some way, is to funnel these efforts into something that would, be more powerful on the output side. We will definitely continue with similar activities. I'm not sure whether that will be possible this year because I have other plans, and since I'm the only one covering research innovation in the Western Balkans at the moment. But that will be definitely something worth exploring, given that we received very positive and encouraging feedback from researchers and policymakers and internationals too. I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say that I collaborate with RCC, I follow your work. I think this is the underlying aspect that maybe we oversee sometimes. Of course, the common regional market is important and everything else that the RCC is doing, but without building innovation and competitiveness, it will be hard to compete very simply. And for that, science is the underlying condition. So that's why I think we should take this even more seriously. So maybe Sincha even top up your team probably.
If I may add up just onto that, Olympia, just briefly, I believe that this is very important in a way set of moves that are happening right now in the Western Balkans and slightly broader, because for the first time, at least to my knowledge, we are seeing efforts by the research community on one hand and to some extent business community on the other hand, to in a way find a similar or the common language to understand each other's needs, to understand who comes from which perspective, and of course to hopefully find ways to collaborate together. And this also includes policymakers and governments. We are unfortunately, and this is something that I've been struggling in my line of work, research community, business community, policymakers, international community, they all tend to speak from their very specific perspectives, and they tend to speak in languages they do not understand. With initiatives such as this one, we are in a way bridging this gap, and we are making things happen on the go. I know that these are baby steps. We require much more investment in all sorts of activities. But by showcasing that things can be done, I believe that many other interesting initiatives will be launched sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments or any feedback?
Yeah, I have an idea actually listening about this initiative. I think it's great to integrate research with policy development. My question to you is basically what is your long-term purpose behind this? For example, I'm thinking eventually if you can connect different researchers of the region, you can organize workshops aligned to specific thematic areas. But also provide, let's say, for the next cycle of the next cohort of the fellows, some mentorship opportunities. That would be great. How you can connect the early stage researchers with more established experts. So that could be eventually an idea. I don't know if you have already thought about that, but I would like to hear a bit more. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I can take that. Yes, obviously, our network is being established as we speak, and so on. So a lot of that is going to demand resources. We are, as a group, also planning to actually develop a roadmap how we can actually gather more resources to provide full service to both our fellows, but also to wider community of researchers in the region, and not only people who are working in the region, but also people from elsewhere, like EU or even the United States, but which are taking interest in the region and producing some sort of useful research. In terms of long-term development for the research repository, the idea is this is going to be a living thing. We are obviously going to this year, as soon as you as a cohort complete your papers, which are already designed so that they're accessible, not long academic papers, academic research papers published in academic journals, but targeted kind of more communicative for the policy community. We're going to add to this, and the idea that the people we invited for this launch, but also who is going to be targeted with our public campaign, is that the research is submitted to this, so we can build in terms of repository, that we can build this body of knowledge which can actually, then really serve as a gateway. And for that, this is the first event in the course of the action in the years to come. And finally, and I'll conclude my answer with that, what we hope as well is that we are going to build this mentorship schemes, which we are just starting in terms of young postdoctoral researcher being connected to older, more established people, but also each year we are actually trying to seek a very for the fellows to find very specific people, very specific teams and topics, so that they can link. We believe that one of the keys for this to actually succeed, to be honest, is the multidisciplinarity. I think the idea of these different fellows sitting here, but also this kind of research repository, we will actually find something you will not usually expect in policy processes, like conceptual issues, very important when the policies are starting in the early in the framework. And also some reflections on some theories of change, which are very often employed in very specific policies, how this is actually going to benefit and what are going to be effects are in there. Because I think for now, what we have is an ecosystem which is mainly driven by the consultants, very specified, very specific areas, which very often have these very elaborate models, but very often are not in connection with different expertise and different angles of looking at the issues. So in that respect, we hope we're going to bridge that as well. But yeah, that will depend on how much research we have and what kind of services we can have.
What I wanted to add maybe that what we are doing also now, and what I think is important for you as fellows, and also for the alumni that used to be fellows in the RECAS network and also our network, is that we are also thinking about better engagement and also activities to involve alumni network and give opportunities also to you that went through this fellowship program that wish to stay active in the network. So not only capacity building will be something that we will offer to future fellows, but also some of the activities and some of the ways of connecting, ways of working together, we're also going to design and develop for the alumni network as well. So your fellowship will not end here. So I think this is also something that is important to tell you, and also to have in mind that we are trying to figure out the ways of how to build this network even stronger with you in mind. Elena, yes.
My question is about ethics, I think, maybe also about the efficiency, but I do understand the logic behind the collaboration with academia and policy. How do you go before? Change policymakers. At the same time, I think that collaboration has been compromised in many ways. That academics are being asked to do a very sort of general, non-critical knowledge production, and academics are oftentimes not in a refusal of doing that as well. Policymakers are oftentimes there to listen to things that are not going to be implemented and they're not going to be integrated in any official documents. So I'm curious about how are you positioning this in an ethical and strategic way. So these collaborations are more efficient, are really connected to the community, are producing knowledge and effects for public good. And it's not like I'm trying to say this is going to fail and you shouldn't be doing this. I really would like all of us to think thoroughly, how do we make the use of that connection with policymakers? How do we make politicians do things. At the same time, I don't have much trust being in that type of labor for 2 decades with very little changes.
So does anyone speak this or else you get, so,
Yes, I see. You don't have to turn. I see on another screen. Of
okay.
center. I see the audience. Yes, I mean, thank you very much for this question. This is the very, very, I would say, accurate and actual question, and especially coming from Serbia and Belgrade University, I can totally relate what you are saying. But I think that the last thing we need to do is simply to give up this policy area, let's say like this. I think it's more in a general way, I think this is important relations, and that university and academia in general should have very important stake into the decision-making process. I mean, the knowledge should have important stake in decision-making process. We are definitely not there, and that's very clear, especially in our region. But I still think that, and especially having in mind the position of Belgrade University at this point, that this regained credibility which university has also offers some possibilities and chances to say something which will be considered much more differently now than it should be considered, or it would be considered 6 months ago. So I think that there are different avenues and different ways how we can use this and how we can actually pressure for the general consideration of knowledge in the whole this process. And I think really this is my standing, at least personally, that we shouldn't give up on this. There are many things which are very problematic in this way, and I have to say that at this point, university should definitely refuse to take any part in, state actions for the moment in Serbia, and probably it is the same in Turkey or some other countries. But on general and principal level, I think that academia and university should play important role in providing the knowledge which should be used for the policy and decision making. So I think this is the step that we are working and doing at the moment, which is maybe not the best moment ever. But still, I have to be hopeful, at least for Serbia, that very soon the time will come that we will be able actually to have partners on another side that will understand what is important of the knowledge and expertise, and then we be able to offer them something. And about the quality of the knowledge which is offered, this is, usual debate. It's not only in this direction, it's also within academia, and there are different tools that can be used. I mean, open and transparent discussion about that always helps, I would say. So if something is rubbish maybe published, then there are ways to acknowledge that also. So that would be my take on this.
I think this is something we always discuss. I think the processes are there, are going, and the basic is, are you on the table or not on the table? And I think one of the ethical issues is obviously how we do with fellows we have in support, what kind of topics are there, what kind of approaches are there. And for example, like very specific topic about which you've been dealing with the listening about the migrant workers and their take on the economic position in periphery of the EU are topics which are completely absent from the policy discussions which are happening anywhere. These stakes are at least there, and we feel that is a first step to put the foot in the door. And the second part is what I've discussed, I think, and I will join with the problems of the autonomy of the University in Belgrade at the moment, is that the only really support you can get is actually wider audience and public in terms of any support for a specific position academics have on specific policies. And I think this way we are also reaching out not only to those who are making decisions, but to those whose in whose name the decisions are being made and informing them. And I think there is no final solution. I completely agree. I will judge the question. I think it is something that needs to be constantly checked and rechecked. But to be honest, it's something that if you miss this opportunity, if we as an academia miss this opportunity, then the process is driven elsewhere and by other actors and those actors which are already spending a lot of public resources, and a lot of resources are invested, and we need to find a way how to make the most of those resources. It's going to be challenging, but hopefully we will find some way to work around those issues.
Thanks. If we don't have some questions in chat, no. I think if we don't have any more questions or any more feedbacks, we will conclude today's launch event. We're going to send an email to everybody who registered in the link to the repository and also Academic Policy Lab, and also you fellows will be getting the link and everything else. So I'm inviting everybody to go and search and look and try and see if these tools work, and also please give us the feedback on any improvements you might see or any improvements you would do, so we can also in the next phases of its development work and make it even better. Thank you everybody for joining us today.